And now we can focus on other things while that's working. Ferrying resources is actually one of the least intensive forms of manual labor, surprisingly enough. Things like crafting and smelting are much less intensive. I'm definitely going to need to increase iron production. And now that that's done, we can focus on something else. Such as this. There, now we can actually do more. What are some of the things we want to automate first? Belts and arms, probably. So, the production area, and down here. A lot of room to work with. Probably stay consolidated to begin with, just so we can conserve belts. So this area should be for the belts. And that just takes iron. Which also means that now we can start taking out the iron. That's overkill. There. Actually, I should... Or... Oh, I have a new idea. And here we can use our first underground belt. I'm just going to borrow some of this iron from myself. There. I typically prefer for this to be the underground belt and splitter area in the hotbar. There. Now we're producing belts automatically. And we can just continue producing those and store them in a chest here. And limit that to only make 3 stacks at maximum, so that we don't burn away all of our iron for nothing. Arms are slightly more complicated. They need all of that, plus 1 extra ingredient, which actually requires 2 processes individually. And all of it relies on copper. And so now we can begin taking care of this problem. I don't like how this is running over the iron patch, but we can fix that later. This is all temporary. This is all temporary. Until it gets so bloated that replacing it becomes a hassle. And then it's permanent. Until we get robots that can deconstruct things for us, then we can just clear out. We can clear fell everything. I see, this machine is functioning as intended. There. Very good. And resupply of belts. That's a lot of belts we can use. And now that research is complete. What else do we need? That's too much currently. Uh, mm, mm, this one opens the most paths. This one also opens many, and they're both very expensive. Start the least expensive one first. Going to need more of these now. There. And I'll be taking more of those. Very good. Now we just manually construct the arms and no belts. We can have machines making the machines eventually. I actually really like the idea of a machine that can construct all of the parts to replicate itself as a kit that can be assembled by a different machine, which is also constructed by the same first machine. Or even better yet, the one machine can do all of it, be the constructor and assembler. Technically, all you need in order to manipulate resources is a combination of arm and tools. So a robot arm with tools that are available to it, that are interchangeable for it. And then that arm can make replicas of itself and the tools. The hardest part of that would be the programming. And technically any machine that requires motion could just be an arm. Although for many things that's overkill. For instance, if all you require is one linear motion. Finally enough belts to start doing bigger projects. Can start with this. Yes, I sense eventually we're going to have problems. One of the biggest problems I always have is belts clogging because they're carrying too many things at a time. However, that can still be a huge problem since during the middle section of one of these, all the resources can be consumed by one process, and then the process after that in the chain doesn't get any, and that's a distribution problem. One that I always have. I'm going to make some of these manually. We're going to need circuit production. Thankfully, all we need for that is right here. This looks correct. So we can have circuit production for right now be right here, or right here, or no, here, and a splitter that goes to that portion. There. And so that process is set up. And now it's going. And we can make a chest for that as well. And we're going to need supply of power poles now. There, and so now we don't need to craft our own circuits anymore. That's probably overkill for copper. I can better use this on iron, which actually needs it more. There. And then when one belt isn't enough, we would need to run multiple belts in parallel, like that. Perhaps now we are beginning to consume more than we can produce in terms of iron plates. If that's the case, then we're going to need to overhaul this. We are beginning to overreach on power, or overextend. One of these produces much faster than the other. Actually, we have enough belts now, we can automate all of this. And I'd actually prefer for all of this to be south from here. This is a bad location for it. We can have this be probably back here, closer to the water. Yeah, this is where it all goes to, and they're produced over here where we already have all the resources we need on hand. So we can split this where here. This is already becoming a mess. You know, it would be better than this system. Hold on. We can get rid of all of this and replace it with a better system.